Hey Scalers, welcome back to another episode. Coming up today,
when consumers make purchase decisions, we're always super scared of making a mistake. Raise money before you need them. We started raising capital, or really started working on it when we were in dire needs. And when the launch goes good, you get an upward spiral. And after that, you enter the first 3 days are good. The first 3 days are like a lot of traction, boom, maybe some press articles, and you're telling all your social media followers or all your community and followers that this was a huge success, like a launch was a success.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question because I think I know the answer for myself. Have you ever wondered what actually happens when a company goes bankrupt? Like what physically happens? Does someone knock on the door? Do they take all your belongings? And have you ever wondered how to actually hack an Indegogo campaign? You know, how do you do crowdfunding? How do you go on Kickstarter and sell a product? Both those questions you'll get answers to today because I sit down with Didrik Dimmen, one of the founders of a startup called Flowmotion, which developed a stabilisation device for a phone so you could actually film or record or photograph yourself while you were doing extreme sports. They developed a product which raised millions of pre-sales in Indegogo and Kickstarter, sold thousands of products, and then they went bust. They went bankrupt. So I sat down with Didrik, and he gave me a really honest, candid talk about, firstly, how to engineer the marketing around a Kickstarter campaign. Spoiler alert, it's all in the video, but he actually takes us through the steps of how they built that and how they were successful on those platforms. And then actually how they weren't successful and some of the early signals that they should have picked up on. So a really honest recount, and I've never really seen this truth and honesty with a founder before about their failure. So I hope you get some value out of it. It's a long one, so there's also a podcast as always. Just search Lunicorn on whichever platform you get your podcasts. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure to like this video, if not for me, for Didrik and his team who went through this amazing boom story and then bust story. I hope you enjoy. Didrik, former CEO and we do CEO or
CMO.
Former CMO of Flowmotion.
Yes.
First question, my man. What was Flowmotion?
So we were a startup, and our mission was to help people make better videos with their smartphone. And the first product that we made was Flowmotion 1, which was a smartphone stabilizer. A physical device you put your phone into. It's a holder, and it will keep your phone perfectly steady no matter how you move, so you can make smooth, professional-looking videos with your smartphone. It was
not a selfie stick.
Not a selfie stick. It was a glorified selfie stick.
Glorified selfie stick, but you had stabilizers. And so, firstly, why did you want to create that product?
So in the beginning, we were just a bunch of friends from uni, and I was a professional, like some professional BMX rider. My co-founder was a snowboarder, and we all had this problem with shaky GoPro videos. That's where it started. So we had GoPros on our helmet, and we were filming handheld skiing and stuff, and it would all just turn out way too shaky. And things that when you have shaky videos, it just looks so amateurish. And we wanted that, obviously, we wanted that smooth, professional look for our GoPro videos. So that's where it started. We just wanted to
It started with a need, basically, right?
Yeah. Super obvious need.
Yeah.
And it was just we just wanted that product ourselves.
There was something missing in your life, and you wanted to replace it, or you needed to fill that void with something, right? And
True.
You decided that let's go for creating a hardware product. Now, you've obviously heard that hardware, and I'm sure you have too, that hardware is like the hardest thing, right? It's famous, like VCs don't invest in hardware because hardware is hard, right? What was your experience with that? I mean, just give us just an outline right now, and then we can dive into the story.
Well, I mean, hardware is definitely hard, or at least capital intensive, and it takes a lot of time. But
why?
You need because you have to produce it. So you need a lot of cash to fund development. And well, you also need cash to fund development in software, but after you develop a product, you need a lot of cash to make it, like produce it, and you need cash up front most of the times. And you need to handle shipping, logistic, returns. It's definitely a different ballgame, and business models are often way worse than software, especially software as a service, because you have a recurring revenue model, which is really nice. And
it's because it's unit economic, right? Because if you develop a product that's a hardware and you're going to sell it for $100, right? you think it's going to cost you, say, just for argument's sake, $60 to build the product, right? Per unit, right? Selling for $100 is your $40 margin. But then you forget there's marketing costs. And then there's other costs that creep up. And then all of a sudden it costs you $200 to create the product. And you're selling it for $100. And you're like, okay. Yeah.
But I mean, hardware is hard, but it's definitely possible to make. It's definitely possible, and to make. I mean, look at Apple. I mean, yeah, they make a lot of money from the software, but still, a lot of their margins are from selling iPhones. So, but definitely a tough game for sure. Yeah.
And it is a tough game, right? But it doesn't have to be always a tough game. And what stood out to me from Flowmotion's journey and your story is that Flowmotion came out from university. A bunch of buddies got together, saw a need, saw that no product was filling that void, that need, and you created the product, right? You scaled it though. You did. You succeeded because you came out with this product, this glorified. No, I'm kidding. This stabilizer, this iPhone stabilizer for extreme sports, right? And you. This shows, yeah.
It wasn't only extreme sports like that. It was in the beginning with GoPro, and then we switched, and it was kind of more like general video, like fathers film their kids, like vloggers on making traveling videos, and B-roll for large productions. It was all kind of stuff. All kinds of different things people were using for. But sorry.
No, that was perfect. And this show is all about scale busting, right? And you are a scale story, which I think many can learn from and should learn from, because you engineered your company around Kickstarter and Indegogo, right? I mean, you one of the ways to growth hack to get sales for a hardware product is by product funding, crowdfunding, right? How did you approach that journey how did you approach product crowdfunding?
Yeah, so when we started out, first of all, we were extremely inexperienced in everything that involves building a company. We basically had no idea what we were doing, but we knew one thing, and that was that Kickstarter, and I think Indegogo was the thing there at the time as well, but Kickstarter was definitely the largest one.
When is this? Is 2000?
That was 2015.
2015.
Jesus, 5 years ago. So
it's only 5 years ago. It's not even that long ago, but it seems so long, right?
That's 5 years seems long ago. Seems a long time. But we went to NTNU School of Entrepreneurship, which is a master's degree in entrepreneurship, and it's really hands-on. You're supposed to start a company. You get some training at school, but it's basically you're left on your own to start a company. And you're supposed to write a master's degree there. And we two of my co-founders wrote their master's degree in crowdfunding. And what they basically did there was just into the biggest crowdfunding campaigns that was the most successful, and just study their approach down to the nitty-gritty stuff. And we basically just thought, well, this could fit our product. It's a consumer product. It's hardware. It's around $200. It's great. We see a lot of other tech products like it doing good on Kickstarter, and we're like, okay, perfect. This is what we're gonna do. And that was as far as the business plan went. It was just, okay, we have this product, we have this idea. Let's try to make it, and let's aim for crowdfunding it. That's gonna be our big international launch. That's gonna be what we're gonna do.
And we're gonna become. Did you guys want to become billionaires, successful? I mean, what was your kind of riding ambition with this? Was it just to create a cool product and be like, hey, we created that, and then roll it into something, or?
I mean, obviously we were super ambitious, and this was all consuming. This was our life. This is all we cared about. Classic, like, go-getters, like really just woof. And we had big ambitions, but we have no idea it would be as big as it was. So
$8 million in sales, I think, was it at one point?
Yep.
$8 million in sales, only like 2-3 years later, right? So, all right, but let's not jump to that just yet. Just getting you all excited at home. So you're still at uni. You have this idea. You're two. I mean, how cool is that? Your two co-founders did their thesis on how to effectively be successful on crowdfunding platforms, right? So what came first, the idea or the crowdfunding? Like, we should find a product we can do through crowdfunding.
No, I think definitely the idea came first, okay. And that was just a natural extension of it, like the plan. And I mean, it was, the early days was pretty cool. We had this product, we made some early prototypes, and in the very beginning, we were not secretive at all about our product. We started posting social media, and we started making videos, started reaching out to ambassadors, testing on ourselves, and just being out there. Participating in pitching competitions, all kinds of stuff. So and we got a lot of traction in the beginning.
What kind of traction was that? Was that like investor interest? Was that customer interest? Or
it was winning pitching competitions, and it was followers in social media, and it was just like every conversation we had with like pro athletes. At that time, we were still making a GoPro stabilizer, so we were reaching out to like the Norwegian national ski team and all these kind of big motocross riders and snowboarders and skiers, and they all was like really stoked, and we invited some of them to test the product with us, like prototypes, like being involved in the product development process, basically.
That's a good example of user testing in the early days, right? Did you have an MVP even at the time, or?
Yeah, so we had a ton of I mean, very early on we had a MVP,
which is a minimum viable product, right? Which is the most basic version of your product. It might even be plastic and fake, but or
I can show you a photo which you can overlay this video if you want. It was horrible. It was minimal at like with a big capital M. Yeah, but I mean it worked. It worked, but it was like useless to use, and or it was impossible to use. But it worked, and we just started refining it. We had a brilliant CTO who just like he just scraped the internet for all kind of weird small companies that delivered like small parts that we needed to make the first prototype. And we started out without making any software or developing any of those electronics at all. We just bought some weird crappy shit online, but which would work if you were like super handy with it. But anyways, or this kind of Jesus. So it was fun. But we started refining the product through testing it ourselves and testing with other users. It sort of became this. When we made the 3D sketches on, you can suddenly like realize this is a product people actually can use. Like it's possible to make.
But it takes time to figure that out as well, right? And what were you trying to achieve by showing it to these people when you first showed it to your future users, right? What were you planning to sort of get from them?
I think like because we participated in like pitching competitions and business plan writing competition and stuff. A lot of cool stuff, and for those things, you obviously want some traction. Like you wanna, in order to win, you should have some traction, proof of concept, traction for sure. And these guys provided it. We just say, hey, we have the national Norwegian ski team as like ambassadors. They weren't like officially ambassadors, but like the help out and all these kind of cool quotes and all the cool videos we made, and we just wanted to create a product and have fun doing it.
That's the interesting thing, though, because traction can come in different shapes, right? I think most people think traction should come in revenue or items sold or new customers, but traction, we'll jump into that in a second with your social media as well, because traction can be influenced on social media, right? It can say that, hey, we have this massive engaged audience. We haven't sold anything to them yet, but we haven't tried. But they're growing, they love us, and we at some point need to monetize that, right? Another example is product traction. So don't get bogged down. I found like founders sometimes think like traction must mean customers or must mean this. Traction just means positive momentum in the right direction in an area of your business, preferably more than one. The more traction you have in business and sales and product, obviously the better the package is for an investor to invest in, right? Just before we move in, please.
Yeah, because I think there's two sides of traction. It's like traction is so the flip side of traction is basically a risk minimization. So a starting company, many people associate that with being crazy, taking a lot of risk, like being crazy, risky, and everything. But starting a company to a large degree is about minimizing risk, because you're hopefully, or in many cases, you're doing something new, something innovative, something new that hasn't been done before, and you should do for your own sake and for the sake of your company's probability to be successful. You should try to minimize risk as much as possible, and verifying the product with its user is a way of minimizing risk. So that's I think that was probably how we looked at it. We was like, okay, is this actually going to work? Is this going to fly? We were trying to minimize the risk of it being a dead end, sort of. which I guess was our approach.
Yeah. Which obviously worked out for you, because I find a lot of founders, or not often enough, they build a product because they want to build a product, not necessarily because a customer wants that product. And you guys are the good example that you wanted the product. So then you built an MVP, as shabby as it was, you took it to other people like you who would buy it, and they said they loved it, right? We've spoken about one area of traction, and you're testing, validating this idea. Social media, you built traction up in a different way, which is another way I think you guys hacked your way to get the kind of product growth that you got and the sales you did. Tell me about how you approached hacking social media.
Well, I think, so at the time I was like a semi-professional BMX rider, and I had my own social media thing going on. When you're a professional like action sport athlete, you obviously make a lot of videos showing off your skills. It's a very egocentric sport. So we had like, okay, like let's do what we've always done, like make cool videos and post them on social. And that's what we did. And we tried to find the things that were the most eye-catching, that would make people stop and look and actually take a good interest. And one of the most important visual elements we had was the split screen. It was like a video cut in half, where you had the smooth side on one page and a shaky one on the other. It would be filmed simultaneously, so it would be the same clip, just smooth. And so we tried to make a bunch of those videos and try to get really cool athletes and make really cool videos. I mean, we were, I guess, to some point looking up to GoPro as well. At the time. We were definitely looking up to GoPro at the time, because we were making one for GoPro. So we just tried to make cool videos and just post regularly, and just comment, be available. And that was our approach to it. We weren't that conscious about it in the beginning. We were just like, okay, this is cool. Let's post cool stuff.
Yeah.
Angle.
Social media and your influence and the Flowmotion's influence on social media definitely helped you guys when you went to the crowdfunding, because you did this before the crowdfunding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in the first years or the first months, we were, we were not that conscious about it. We were just posting stuff, and to be successful on social media, basically have to post consistently, really high quality content, be engaged, like answer comments, etc., and build your niche. So, and we definitely had a solid niche. Like if you went through our channel, you would see cool action sport videos, and most of them would be like a demo of a product. That would be like a shaky one and a smooth one, and you would kind of be hooked, and that would, you would definitely be interested if you were in the target zone. Yeah. So we just stuck to that niche and just went with it. But
you treated the channel as if it was an influencer. I felt like, if I went on that channel and it was they changed the name from Flowmotion to Didrik, I would have honestly felt that was just your channel. I wouldn't necessarily even realize that you were pushing a product or you were associated. Yeah. That stood out to me. I think good examples like John Olsen and Douchebag, right? Another Norwegian company. Him and Douchebag are so intertwined. He's always wearing Douchebag in his own personal vlogs, and vice versa. Douchebag has always got him and his friends, in their channel, right? Was there like a hack there for you guys to like treat the channel as if it was your own or a personal channel?
I think just our personalities sort of, leaked through, or just
naturally came through, right? Yeah.
So, our personality just definitely naturally came through, and we just wanted to post really beautiful high-end content, and that's what we did. And we had a really friendly, personal vibe on it. And we just went with it.
Do you need to have a lot of money to do a channel like you had? To do Instagram and social properly? Do you have to have a lot of expensive equipment? Do you have to know how to edit? Do you for photography? Or can you get away with it relatively easily? Is there like a myth there?
I don't know. I think it's so different depending on your audience and your product, whatever. But you should definitely invest in valuable content, and that doesn't have to be a lot of money invested, but it has to be a lot of time and consistency, because you need to make valuable content, and preferably, especially on Instagram, it should be beautiful. Like it should be pretty. That's what always worked.
Yeah.
And but you need to be good at making videos, making content, and Instagram is definitely a lot of photos still, and photos was always the thing that worked the best for us. think I got the most likes. I don't know if I got the most engagement, I got the most results in terms of.
Depends how you measure the KPI, right? Like, is it click-throughs? Is it comments? Is it follows? There's so many different metrics you can judge, and that's something I often feel crazy about. It's sort of, I do so much content and all the stuff, but like I don't really have a very big following because I'm not consistent with Instagram. I post once. I post when I work occasionally, right? And I think that's my shortfall. But I also like, for me, the time and energy, and I kind of want to hire someone full time to do that for me.
It's
you guys had to dedicate it. So into your journey, right? So you've tested the product, you've got some good feedback, you're pitching, you're winning events, you guys are killing it. You have 2 guys on your team who are masters at raising money on crowdfunding platforms, right?
Written a master thesis.
Yeah, they're masters and they wrote masters. Yeah, that's a funny thing. Yeah, they have masters in it, but they're not masters yet, right? But you guys proved to be that. They've got the theory, right?
Or some theory.
What I'd love to learn, and I know our audience would love to learn from you as well, because for their benefit, for you guys that are watching this, these guys, they do you remember how many products you sold through the crowdfunding? The first and second time? I remember the numbers.
5,000, I think.
5,000.
It's public. You
Yeah.
just look it up.
Exactly. So 5,000 products sold, $8 million in revenue from those sales, right?
No, so that was not from the crowdfunding.
That was just crowdfunding.
Yeah, no, that was not. That was pre-orders after. So
Okay.
crowdfunding
So
was.
millions products sold. But anyway, I think so many people go into Indegogo and Kickstarter with what do you need to do those kind of things, and what do you need to do them successfully, right?
One thing, prep. You need a lot of preparation. So crowdfunding is these platforms are awesome because they have huge audiences. So I think, I don't know, there's like millions on Kickstarter active users, and these are trigger happy people with cash, ready to invest in new projects that they love. So a crowdfunding campaign, as most other marketing campaigns or most of the stuff you do online, is about preparation. We invested so much time in crafting the messaging, crafting the marketing campaign, the videos, the photos, the whole brand sort of vibe, and also building up a huge audience in advance, and also sort of trying our best to engineer the platform, engineer the campaign to work in our favor.
How do you do that?
So, there's a couple of psychological principles that are really important that make us people buy, and one of them is social proof. If you see something that is successful, chances are you're gonna like it, or chances are you're gonna like it more than if it wasn't. Everyone wants to be a part of success, and no one wants to be a part of failure, obviously. So what we did was we went super hard on the launch. Everything was about the launch. Everything was focused on like the first hour. Our goal was to be successfully funded within 1 hour. Because when you enter this, because there's 3 good things about that. One is that everybody else who comes in after it's funded see that, oh shit, this campaign is already funded. This is this looks really cool. A lot of other people have bought this.
FOMO.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of FOMO for sure. Yeah. And you get high internal rankings on Kickstarter. So Kickstarter has they have popular categories, they have project of the day, they have trending projects, and all that stuff. And the more traction your campaign has earlier, the more traction your campaign has the sooner. The more traction your campaign has in the beginning, the higher up in the rankings it goes, which turns into like a positive flywheel, because then more people see it and more people buy in because it's already funded, and it just boom, spirals from there. And the press, investors, everyone else sees that this is funded a success, which is good, and we got some media coverage from that. But yeah, starting from the beginning. We did everything that we could to get this thing flying off the get-go. We built up a huge email list. I think it wasn't that huge. Looking back, I wish we did everything. I wish we just took the prep time and just tripled it, just because you can never prep enough. But anyways,
and the email list is so when you go live, that's the first blast that you go to customers to buy. Hey, we're live, go buy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So build up an email list. It was about, I think it was 5,000 people, and we had like countdown on social media. I think at the time we had 4,500 followers on Instagram, and most of them, like, they were really dedicated followers, most of them, and some on Facebook, but mostly on email list. I called my mom. I was like, you got to be ready. Tuesday at 6. Like, this is, you have to buy one. And yeah, and we had a lot of press lined up, like Forbes magazine, Business Insider. They all had their embargo, which, like, they're not allowed to release the article before a certain time, and the embargo was set at the time of launch. So that was good. Drove a lot of traffic. And
I'll break that down for me. So you contacted these different press agents and you said, hey, we're going live with this new product. It's got a lot of interest. Why did they write about you? Is it because how did you sell it to them?
Okay, so press is a whole ball game on its own. It's a whole science on its own, basically. Yeah. But we were lucky. So no one cares about a Kickstarter campaign launching. Like, that's not newsworthy at all. Like, that you are launching on a crowdfunding campaign, no one cares. But we had a cool angle because at the time, cell phone was just getting, it was just at the time where cell phones were getting really good cameras. I think at the time we launched, it was about the iPhone 7. It was the first one with 4K or first one with 30 frames or slow-mo or something like that. Like, it was just about the time where phones were, like, really starting to get really good at filming a camera. So we had we found journalists that wrote about that. They probably did like reviews of different phones and would focus on their cameras, and journalists that were interested in that and had audiences that were interested in phones' capabilities to film, which our product just fitted perfectly into that story. Like, here's this one product, there's this new product from Norway, which will take your phone, which is already getting a lot better at filming, and make it just so much better by stabilizing it. And all these other features we had, like tracking and motion time lapse and so on and so forth. So we just contacted this journalist, and this was a lot of work. Jesus, because no one cares about a Kickstarter launch, so everybody was just like, this doesn't matter. But anyways, we tried to find a story and create a story that would just be put on a silver platter to the journalist. Like, here's a cool story for your audience. It's about our product, which will help your audience learn about this kind of product and learn how they can make their phone videos better. And that's a good story for journalists that writes about camera phones. So yeah,
and it worked. That's how you did it. So and
it worked, but it was a lot of work. We hired a US PR agency. They did a horrible job.
Really?
So we just went, basically at the end, we just went on our own and just cold calling, emailing, and just trying to pitch journalists. And I guess the clue is just to have a good angle. So I guess our angles were not about our Kickstarter launch because that's not newsworthy, but our angle was about the product and how they could benefit the reader, which was a better story because, hey, suddenly there's this new innovative product that can help you so much. So yeah, that was
so you sort the press out, you spend the prep time in creating the videos and the copy for the campaign. You get all your family and friends ready for the launch to buy one, just to make sure you sort of growth hack the launch. So it looks like this thing is selling like hotcakes, right? Sell out within the first hour. I've heard that there is a hack to raising money or raising product financing through Indegogo or Kickstarter, where you set the target lower than you really want, because you're more likely to sell 100 products than 1,000. So if you set the target at 100 or 500, you'll reach it quicker, and then you'll be oversubscribed, and then you'll seem sexy and be ranked higher. Is that true?
Spot on.
Yeah, it is. Is that what you did?
I mean, yeah, to some extent we did, but it was probably not that conscious. Like, we had our business plan leaked or was faulty in so many ways, and one of them was our economical or our financial plan, basically. Yeah. But I mean, we definitely had a lot higher goal internally that would make us satisfied.
Yeah.
That we would be satisfied with than the public goal. So yeah, definitely, and we definitely had like, okay, we have so many people on our email list, we have so many people on social media, we have indication that so many people are going to buy the first hour, and we're going to really message all of them to make sure they actually do it, and that's hopefully going to be enough to reach the goal within a few hours. That was our approach. So yeah.
What was your biggest lesson that, you know, if I say, hey, Didrik, man, I'm
prep
doing
time.
Prep time. That's it. Prep time. Just spend the time.
Yeah. So a little backstory was that we were making GoPro stabilizer, and then we switched to make a smartphone stabilizer because GoPro came with their own stabilizer, and that sort of definitely, you know, was a big showstopper for our business plan.
Tell me that story actually, just because that's a quite funny story.
So we basically spent 1.5 years, 1.5 years to make a GoPro stabilizer. We already did an equity crowdfunding in our company for a smartphone stabilizer. My mom was invested, my friends had invested in the company, in this company that was supposed to make a GoPro stabilizer, and we got like money from Innovation Norway, blah blah blah, and everything was going really good, and we had a lot of traction, all ambassadors lined up, like really like top ranked ambassadors within every sport, and everything was just like, you know, everything was going our way. We were winning pitch competitions, everything was good, and then I think we'd already started making the Kickstarter video. And I remember I was back after a weekend filming with like a Red Bull athletes, like this really awesome downhill video. And I was sitting at my computer like late at night editing the video, and I got a mail from my contact at GoPro. And he said that next week GoPro is coming out with their own stabilizer.
You spent a year and a half developing this product.
Yeah, a year and a half of my whole freaking identity, you know. I was this, you know, GoPro stabilizer entrepreneur guy. And all my friends had invested in company. Like it was a thing, you know.
Just like, are you kidding me?
Actually, we were at the university still at this time, and everybody knew about it. All my friends knew about it, and it was just like, yeah, we were actually being interviewed to join a TV show as well, and everything was just like, you know, woof.
Yeah.
And then
but how do you come back from that? So, you know, that must have been a massive blow, right? So you're like,
that was a huge blow,
yeah,
for sure. It was just everything,
game over.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, it was just like settle. It was just taking a step back. Okay, what does this mean for us as a company? And it meant at the time, that was a huge, so competitors, you're always gonna have competitors, but the problem with competing with GoPro is that when they lock up all ambassadors, you won't be allowed to work with them. They lock up distribution channels, and their product has access to the camera, so you can start and stop the camera from the grip, from the handle. We would never be allowed to enter the camera. We actually applied for like this GoPro developers and rejected it. Yeah. So we would basically never be able to make a product that was better than theirs.
Yeah.
Our product will always be number 2. So that was a little what we thought. It turned out the GoPro stabilizer was a flop, really, at the end of the day. But at the time we were like, okay, we can't compete with GoPro. But we participated in some business plan competitions early on, where we wrote like a business plan. What we're going to do in the next 5 years, you know. This was like month 3, you know.
Yeah. This is what we're going to do: sell to Apple, then GoPro. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the business plan, we actually wrote that we were going to make a smartphone stabilizer after we've dominated the action sport niche, which is not a niche, it's a huge market. But we were like, okay, we're going to dominate the action sport market with the GoPro stabilizer, and then we're going to make a smartphone stabilizer. Because phones were starting to kick up, and we were seeing that progress, and we were like, okay, this is going to be interesting in the future. So we just skipped the whole GoPro step. We was like, fuck it. Yeah.
Straight to mobiles. Yeah, straight to phones.
Yeah, straight to phones. I remember actually for 3 weeks, there was a 3-week period there, or maybe a month, we said, and we also announced this publicly, that we were going to make a smartphone stabilizer and a GoPro stabilizer. I have no idea what we were thinking, but it was a bad idea. Anyways, we eventually, thankfully, realized that we were not able to make both, and we just like switched. Okay, it's phones, all in on phones. And at the beginning, everybody was like laughing. I remember we had our filmer that we were already hired to make the GoPro stabilizer Kickstarter video, and he was like an expert guy, super cool guy. But and then I told him like, hey, dude, we have to switch. First, we had to pause the whole contract because it was already ongoing, and then we're gonna make a smartphone stabilizer. He was like, self-stick kind of thing.
Yeah,
like what's happening? Selfie-sticks was the only thing that smartphones selfies were the only thing smartphones were used for at the time. So, and then we started doing a few for one of the first shoots with them, and they're actually like, whoa, like, geez, like these videos turns out pretty awesome. Like this is a cool product. So in the beginning it was a little bit laughter, I guess. Like, or we were insecure as well. We were like, fuck, is this gonna work? Like, do we want to make a selfie stick? And it turned out like, geez, this was the right timing.
Yeah.
And
how important is that timing?
Well, I haven't experienced bad timing, but I think timing is critical for sure. Yeah. There's like a quote. There's so many quotes about entrepreneurship, but one of the quotes is like timing is the most important factor for company success, etc. But and I guess that's true to a large extent, especially with like online companies.
But you can't predict timing, but you can prepare for a launch on Kickstarter or Indegogo, right? So you can affect the timing in that sense.
And you can take the opportunity. You can ride the wave if you see it coming. So you don't have to predict it, or preferably you should do your best to predict it and do your research, but you can take the opportunity when it arises, and that's what we did. We saw the wave coming, and we were like, it's gonna be good.
And then 8 million in sales, thousands of products sold.
That's that easy.
It's that easy. All right, thanks everyone. Yeah. All right, so biggest lesson as an entrepreneur?
Do your research, ask for advice. Yeah. We were go-getters. We were just, boom, let's do this, let's go. We know our best, like, and we should have asked for advice. We should have stopped the path. And
but any regrets from entrepreneurship, or how do you look at it from that perspective? Like, are there any regrets or any lessons that you wish you learned sooner that others can then learn that lesson from you now and then not try and make it themselves?
Yeah, I mean there's a long list of regrets and bad decisions we made, and some of the stuff was obviously hard to predict. So wouldn't be reasonable to expect us to being able to predict it, but some of the stuff was like no-brainers, that stuff we should have done that we didn't, which was again like prep time and doing your research and asking for advice, because especially like we were especially bad at financial planning. That was and on consequence analysis, basically we took our go-to-market strategy was super risky. So we basically just sold our hardware product that we'd never produced it before, and we'd sell like a ton of it, like millions of dollars of it, without knowing when it's going to be. We had a contract with the price and the timeline
from the producer in China.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was super risky. We were taking on a lot of risk, because we were collecting cash from the customers, and we didn't have a product yet, which is super risky, especially when it gets big. When you're talking millions of dollars, you're taking a lot of risk, and we didn't do enough. I mean, we did a lot of things wrong, but we didn't do enough consequence analysis and financial planning to be
How do you think your experience with Flowmotion over the last 5 years and now going into the world of entrepreneurship again through different routes, working with new companies and different domains, how has that prepared you for what you do now?
Well, I think life is a never-ending lesson. Like, you always learn something new, and the thing about entrepreneurship is that you have to do so many different things. You're responsible, have to do it. No one else can do it. Which forces you through so many hoops, forces you through so many different tasks you have to get done. And that's really like, you have no one to hold your hands, and you have no one to guide you through it most of the times. So you learn a lot by doing. And you learn by failing. That's, I think, information without emotion isn't retained, and there's definitely a lot of emotions when you're starting a company, and there's definitely a lot of emotion when it crashes. So that information is definitely retained. Yeah, I guess. But I don't know. I've never had like consulting jobs, so I don't know. You probably learned a lot of stuff there as well. I shouldn't discount that at all. But or other kinds of jobs, but definitely steep learning curve.
I feel like there's no comparison to the lesson in doing your own thing. And of course, yeah, you learn lots from everything, of course. But when you're solely responsible for every area of a business, Didrik, tips to founders out there. What other tips do you have? Top 3.
Ask for advice and think through it twice. As an entrepreneur, you're going to do so much stuff you've never done before. And chances are you have no idea what you're doing, or very bad, you have little to no idea what you're doing. So
it's the first time you're doing it.
Yeah.
How are you meant
that's
to?
Right? It's the name of the game, and that's a lot of the fun of it. But it pays. It pays to get some good mentors, some experienced people on board, or just to help you give advice, and it's going to save you so much trouble. Because especially me, I always feel confident that I know what I'm doing, or I make a plan in my head, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna work out, and it never works out that way, and it repeats. The next time I do something, I'm like, okay, I know how it's gonna work out, and it never works out that way, and it repeats. It's like we have this innate, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but so yeah. There's
so it never works like you think it is. So actually, you should hire someone to just always do the opposite of what you do, and you'll always get it right.
Or just question me.
Yeah.
So and we were bad at taking outside advice. We were just, we were focused. We were executing. We were going for it. And we didn't have time to ask people advice. We didn't have time to stop and think. We were going. We should definitely spend more time reflecting, more time doing thorough consequence analysis. Okay, what's this going to mean if you take on $2 million in pre-orders for this product? What's the risk of delaying? What's the financial risk of delaying? And what if people cancel? What happens if the price per unit increases?
Consequence analysis, because it's weighing up the influences you can't control, right? So the manufacturer not delivering on time, the costs of the materials increasing, people wanting their money back or withdrawing because it's taking too long, because they can do that, right?
Yeah. And these things you have to plan for them, and you should make buffers for them, because things are going to take twice as long as you think, and be because things are going to take twice as long as you think and be twice as expensive. I've never heard a different story.
Especially when it comes to hardware.
Yeah, especially, but also software.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. Just hiring, everything takes longer than you think.
Raising money.
Yeah, raising money. And that's another tip, like raise. Our big mistake that we did, we didn't raise before and that was another thing that we should have done. We should have raised earlier. So a good advice is to raise when you can, or don't dilute yourself unnecessarily, but raise money before you need them. We started raising capital, or really started working on it when we were in dire needs. And that's not a good strategy.
You're not in the good position, yeah. I mean, that's often the mindset of entrepreneurs when they're like, we're doing so well right now, and we want to raise in 6 months, and we're doing so well, we'll be doing better then, we can do it then. But often you might even have people who are interested now, to sort of invest, take the money, and obviously, don't do anything stupid and do it at a really bad valuation or whatever. But just they always say like raise when you don't need it, because then you'll have it when you do. And it puts you in a stronger position. And when you do need to raise money and you have money in the bank, it's like, hey, we have X amount of money in the bank, which lasts, our runway's X. It puts you in a stronger position to raise money, because I've always found funding rounds take at least 3 to 6, 7 months to close often. So, you need to have runway for that. So you're doing really well, but you only have 2 months of runway. You're in a dangerous position to raise money and try and cram that money in as quick as possible, get it in. People might be like, yeah, well, then we want to reduce the valuation to sort of, to help you out.
Yeah, and just extend. And I think you don't necessarily need to raise when you're when you can, but you should try your best to build up good relationships to investors. Like you should try your best to build up good relationships to investors, or to whatever it is that's going to finance your company, because your company is going to need financing. You're going to need a lot of cash, whatever you do, especially if you do hardware, but still if you do software, whatever you do, you're going to need cash, and that's going to make you grow faster, and it's going to reduce the risk of failing. And you should do whatever you can at any time you can to minimize the risk of not getting funding. And a good way to do that is to be transparent and start good relationships with investors from day one, even if you don't need cash, because that's going to reduce your risk of not being able to fund your company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so you've built up the campaign, right? You've teed up the press. Everyone's ready to buy. And what happens after that?
Yeah. So everything is about launch, and when the launch goes good, you get an upward spiral. And after that, you enter what it's... the first 3 days are good. The first 3 days are like a lot of traction, boom, maybe some press articles, and you're telling all your social media followers or all your community and followers that this was a huge success, like a launch was a success, and they will chip in, like, because they were on the fence. Now they see that it's a success, they're gonna jump in, and then it really plateaus. So boom, it's like first couple of days we reached like was number $30,000, 100K within 2 days. We were like peaked out around 150, 160K, and then it's just like slowly
one a day. Yeah.
Because the thing about Kickstarter campaigns is you have a really good start, and then you basically have no incentive to jump on before the timer ends, which is in our case we're 50 days stretched.
And you can set that way what you want.
Yeah, you can usually, I guess the normal number is 30 days. But we launched late November, so we want to stretch it out over New Year's to finish in mid-January. And so we had 50 days. But yeah, there's basically no incentive to jump on because you can still wait like a couple of days or weeks and then jump on. So you enter the valley of death. And we did a couple of things. We tried to leverage more press, which was really hard and was a really uphill battle. So this was just about the time when these BuzzFeed videos were coming out, these square videos that was kind of like news oriented. And so I made one of those for like this influencer that we're working with. And we just started to DM direct message on Facebook to like the biggest pages we found, like Unilad and GI Gadgets and all these kind of pages. And this was basically the same approach as with journalists. We basically gave them a video because these pages live off posting videos. That's their name of the game, just post a lot of content. So we gave them a really cool video. I got one of a friend of mine, a girl. What do you say, girlfriend? You can't say girlfriend.
You can. Yeah, she was a female friend. If you say girlfriend, then you would think this relationship. Yeah, I mean, it might have been. You're like, yeah, I'd tap that.
Yeah, so we tried to make these really cool videos, which was like super news oriented. It was like not sales, it was just like talking about the product. This new GoPro, this new smartphone stabilizer keeps you phone perfectly steady. It was like a really cool split screen. This girl on the mirror, it was like looked really cool. And we just sent them this message and they posted it. And some of these videos got over 20 million views. I think in total it was like 30 million views. And these pages are really cool because sometimes they'll post a link to your website, which in our case was our Kickstarter page, in the comments, and that would be the top comment, which was also get a lot of traction. So that gave us a kind of boost in the middle of the valley of death, so to say. And we also talked to Kickstarter and tried to get on their newsletter and to get feature as project of the day. Again, like Kickstarter has so many users on the platform. And if you can get exposure internally on Kickstarter, so to say, like getting on top of the list, getting trended on project we love, which was if you get project we love featured as if you get featured as project with products we love by Kickstarter, you get on the front page. Wow. So when you land on Kickstarter.com, this is whole.
It's got millions of uniques probably a day actually.
A lot of traffic, and we got at least like 150K revenue from internal posting on Kickstarter. 150K revenue.
That's crazy. And you already had 150K after the big rush when you launched, right? So you got an equal amount of revenue or purchases just from being internally promoted within that.
Yeah, that was over the stretch of the period though, with 150K, but still it was a solid boost. And then we really ramped up marketing spend, paid advertising at the end of the campaign, because if you should. When you get the way to get the most bang for the buck is to plan to build up all the marketing spend towards the end, because then people actually have a FOMO, like because the campaign is actually ending, and this is on Kickstarter, so people actually believe it's gonna end. It's not like this shady drop shipping store.
Buy now for 20% before Monday.
No, this is actually people. So this works. And we just had a really crazy end of the campaign. It was I think we did probably 50% of the total campaign last week.
What did you end the campaign on?
$1.325 something million.
Wow.
So
do you remember how you felt when you saw that figure when it finished? Well, what did you guys do? Were you just like?
it was crazy. I mean, our internal goal was like 350 something, and if we reached 500K, we'd be like, that's a huge success. And I mean, blasting through the million mark was crazy. Yeah, it was kind of unreal,
Yeah.
It was hard to. The problem with selling stuff online is that they're just numbers. You don't see the people. Like they comment and stuff, but you don't see them. Like you don't physically see them. So everything gets like, I mean, the difference. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, definitely it was unreal.
Yeah.
I remember I was flying home from this conference, and I was just like, woke up and we passed the million mark, and I was like, Jesus.
Insane.
Yeah. And the last 2 days was like beyond belief.
Wow.
It was like the last 2 days was probably, I don't know, I have a graph somewhere. I don't think I can share it, but it was.
Well, it was literally like, kind of that exponential.
Because everybody that, like during the Valley of Death, everybody had visited, or a lot of people had visited the campaign. And if you have a Kickstarter user, you can actually push this button, which like remind me when the campaign is about to end or something. Yeah. And we were obviously retargeting a bunch of people at the end of the campaign. So everybody was on the fence, the whole like, which makes up the Valley of Death basically. And they all jump on, or the ones that are keen jump on at the end. And it's just the closer you get, the more people jump on. So yeah, crazy. And another cool thing that we did is that after we were Kickstarter, we did something called Indegogo in demand. Indegogo is a competing platform to Kickstarter, and they have something called in demand, which Kickstarter doesn't. And that is basically something like post launch, like after the campaign is over, you can have something called in demand, which is kind of the same thing, but it's not a campaign. It doesn't have a timer. It's not like a fixed timeline of the campaign. It's just you're there for as long as you want. And it's good because you can basically, like one click, boom, you're on Indegogo in demand. You just transfer your campaign, so to say.
So did you start the second campaign? Because you delivered all the products from the first campaign, right?
So this was at the same time. So after the campaign, the day the campaign was over, we were at Indegogo in demand, which was not a campaign. We didn't run a lot of marketing. It wasn't like a launch. It was just we were there. But we tapped into the Indegogo audience, which is still smaller than Kickstarter.
Number 2 platform, right? Yeah.
So still a lot of people. And that gave us solid revenue. Organically, almost.
And that was just people going to the website and purchasing, not part of the campaign, right? Yeah. Fast forward to, you've got the orders, you've lined up the production facilities, you've been to China to set all this kind of stuff up, right? What happens?
Yeah, so before we launched, we had a contract with a price and timeline for what it's going to cost, and everything was settled. And as soon as the campaign went live, we were like, okay, go. Let's make it. And
we're talking like millions of dollars, right? When you were paying them hundreds of thousands at least, right, for the product.
Yeah. I mean, we probably should have had a higher margin. Like, looking back, we should definitely had a higher margin. We should have sold the product for more, but we still had a good margin.
What was the product sold for at the time?
On Kickstarter, it was $199, and then we sold accessories, so it was about average order value was $239 something. So yeah.
Decent chunk, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a okay margin, but the thing that happened is that we had so much trouble with the production. Just
hardware is hard.
Hardware is hard, and we definitely had a hard time.
If someone's watching this right now who's going to create a hardware company and go into a similar domain, what would you say to them?
I would give the same advice as I mentioned earlier, like plan for double the time and double the cost, because it's such a complex thing, because our product was, I don't know, like 70, 80, 90 different parts from, 30 different companies that were supplying, like sub-suppliers.
And then one combines them all together.
Yeah. Right? And it's like, that's a complex project in and of itself. Like it's so many people involved, so many different companies, so many different things that has to go together. And complex things take time, always. I mean, obviously we could have done better project management, etc., but these things take time anyway. So for everyone starting out, just like prepare for the double the cost, double the time. And but yeah, it's definitely feasible.
Yeah.
There's so many good companies out there that are really good at making hardware products that can help you out. But it's going to take time. It's going to be expensive.
You mentioned something to me before about the hardware industry and things you should know about it, the risk factors and like the product you were trying to create. You're up against changing consumer trends, changing phone trends, changing market trends, right? Elaborate on that one.
So that was another risk that we took as a company, because we made a hardware consumer product, which in and of itself is a hard thing to do, capital intensive to do, and we made it for smartphones, and our product had to physically fit the smartphone perfectly, because you don't want to like a $1,000 iPhone X to fall out of the product. That makes the product useless. So that was a huge dependency. What if suddenly Apple just started making flip phones or started making phones twice the size? Actually, we had to do, like during the campaign, we had to make sure the stabilizer fitted bigger phones, because this was at a time when phones were just getting bigger and bigger. Every generation was just like a bigger phone. And then suddenly the phones were getting thicker. And our product was super critical that on our stabilizer, it was super critical that the center of mass was at the center of the gimbal, because that if it shifted the center of mass, it would be unstable. And that would drain battery and reduce performance. So that was actually one of the things we had to do on the way. We were okay, like these phones are getting bigger. We have to make sure that this is at least, we had to add more margin to the holder so it would be able to fit future phones that we thought were going to get bigger, which they did as well. So and these change every year.
Prediction.
Yeah. That was a positive prediction for sure, but it was another delay in production.
Yeah.
Had to reshape the models. So that was a huge risk we took. We were dependent on Apple, Sony, and these other large phone manufacturers to make phones that fit our product. That was a risk factor that we had 0.0 control over, which was risky. And in the consumer electronics industry, especially phones, like things move so fast. Like phones are getting like released several times. I mean, Apple only comes out once a year, but there's phone releases every quarter almost. So and they're getting new cases, and suddenly like, there's 3 cameras in the back of the phone. Like it's a huge risk factor, and another risk factor we took that also the phone technology in and of itself was getting better. So the internal stabilizer inside the phone was just getting better, and actually at one point, something called OIS, optical image stabilizer, which was a thing that came on the iPhone 8, I think, or came for real with the iPhone 8, and that would actually interfere with our stabilizer, so it would cause this jitter.
It actually create a jitter. Yeah. It would create instability because there's 2 stabilizers effectively fighting against each other or something.
And one of them had more delay than the other, so they were like fighting each other, which was. That was a huge problem.
And how can you predict that as well? Because you don't know what they do. It's not like Apple tell everyone, "Hey guys, so next phone, it's going to be like." No, they don't. It's all built in stealth mode.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You have 0.0 control. So huge risk factor.
Did you build in stealth mode as well? Were you worried that others either would copy you, or did you ever have any people chasing you with patents, or like, "Hey, how dare you do this?" Or
when we started, there was one company that made smartphone stabilizers, and by the time our campaign was launched and when we shipped our products, it was countless. It was 20, 30, I don't know, 50, 100, I don't know how many companies made smartphone stabilizers, and they were all copying each other. We still had uniqueness in many ways, especially our design and branding and the whole thing, but also the product itself. You can release grip, and we had a way better Apple cool features and stuff, but yeah.
It's something that stands out to me. You mentioned like how you stay competitive, because obviously hardware is famously something that gets copied, right? In Asia, they're amazing at copying the latest thing and churning it out, probably because everyone manufactures there too, so they get the molds or whatever, right? But like you said to me before, people would copy, but they were crappy knockoffs that didn't really work, right? But the reason consumers maybe continued to buy from you was because you had spent that time, those years before, creating that social media campaign community, right? So these people understood and they associated the brand. Those imagery that you created differentiated you to some knockoff brand from China. Like, I bought your product because I had a connection to it, because I liked the brand, right? I saw an Asian product that was half the price or even less. But I mean, like, I don't know, Cheng Zhang Zong, Flowmo, whatever. some Chinese label name that was obviously a copycat, right? But I have no connection to the brand. I kind of actually prefer to be a Flowmotioner than a whatever knockoff brand, right? So actually, you guys sort of almost future-proofed yourself when you could have been criticized for like spending too much time and energy on like Instagram, growth hacking. Which is true though. I think people can criticize that all too often, but actually, you're a great example of how it benefited you later in life because people associated the brand. They went to Instagram, went to Flowmotion, found, sick, cool videos. It fitted the bill, right? The social proof, you called it, right?
Yeah. And name of the game in online or in e-commerce is the name of the game in e-commerce or selling anything online or being successful in building a consumer product is to have a good brand and to have trustability. Your consumers have to trust that you make a good product. And because basically when consumers make purchase decisions, we're always super scared of making a mistake. That's innate in our brain. Like we don't want to make mistakes. So if we can provide sort of the safest option, the most credible option, okay, this is a good product, I'm gonna get this product, it's gonna be great, and it's gonna fit my needs. Then whatever makes fits that bill the most is what consumers are gonna buy. And if you go on a Chinese website, it's all in Chinese, and it seems kind of sketchy. Versus if you go on Flowmotion, everything looks really good, really high quality photos. You can see all the details about the product. That makes and you see all for followers and social proof and other people using it. That's the name of the game. Build credibility online, because people are not going to buy for you if they don't trust you.
So you guys have been going for 4 years or something, right? You delivered a bunch of products, iteration 1. You raised some money as well, right? What happened in the end?
Yeah, so...
what's the story?
Yeah, the story was that we managed to make the product. We shipped almost all of the products and refunded the large majority of the rest. But still there were some people that never got the product. We managed to ship the product and it worked really good. We had a 2 to 3% return rate, which is really good.
That's nothing.
Yep, that's
wow,
nothing.
2 to 3% return rate
of
of the products that got delivered.
Yep.
That's really good.
It was several thousand, tens of thousands of products. So but we made a good product and it's still alive today. I actually saw one yesterday.
Did you? How do you feel when you see one now?
I'm I don't know. I'm filled with pride to some extent because it looks pretty cool when I use it, and you can see that I like it. Still filled with a lot of some extent regrets and like shit. We should have done things differently. Yeah. So
do you feel like it was wasted opportunity, or is it more just this was a lesson that you were meant to learn?
I don't know. I don't have any relationship with faith, but I'm definitely thankful for the lesson. I'm humbled by it. It could have been such a success. It was just small, huge challenges which started because of small decisions that could have been done differently. The small critical decision, like for instance, small really important decision like like choosing production partner, which was one of the most important decisions that we made, and that we didn't succeed with.
Picking the right producer and
And these were the stuff we did early on. I'm thinking back like, okay, if we just had, taking another month to do some more due diligence, like if we just taken another month to do some more due diligence on the production partner and maybe source some more, maybe we should have done more research.
What happens when you realize that as well? Can you talk me through that last few weeks or months when you realized that, what was the thing that made you guys pack it in?
So the last few months were kind of hard. The last few months were really hard because you see everything slipping and you have all this weight on your shoulders and you realize that this shit is going to hit the fan, this ship is going to sink. And we're close to raising the round that we needed to get over the knock 2 times, but really hard for a bunch of reasons, and we were really in the deep. So it was a strange period for sure. You realize the ship is gonna sink, and you realize you realize you've tried your best to fix it, but you didn't manage to fix it, and you just you just go through the scenarios. Okay, how is this going to play out? Well, what are we going to do? And I mean, time goes on, and you just, push comes to shove eventually, and that's what it did. And we just, our approach at the end, which was really good, was just to be super open to our customers, to press, to friends, everything. We're just like, hey guys, we are really struggling right now, and we don't see. Yeah, we're really struggling, and it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And eventually, that was a couple of weeks before the actual end, which was good because then you suddenly got some weight on your shoulders. And then we just prepared to wrap up.
Man, I feel a little emotional hearing this story. I'll be honest, it's got a little quiet in this room and everything, but it's amazing, man. But so you held up for as long as you could. I love that advice, man. Like, be open, be honest with people, investors, customers, family, friends, everyone. Hey guys, I'm struggling here. The business is going down. So the business goes down. What happens after that? What did you do?
It's kind of strange because once you file for bankruptcy in Norway,
insolvency or something,
when you declare insolvency or bankruptcy, you are actually not allowed to do anything because at that point the state of Norway is actually the one that's controlling the company, the legal entity that is the company. So, and you are per definition not allowed to do anything. Which is really weird because that's so strange.
You're not allowed to work for anyone else, or you're not allowed to do anything with the company. You're not allowed to.
Yeah, so the company's out of your hands. You're not
allowed to do anything. No social media.
No.
Nothing related to the company at all. But are you allowed to go get another job, or are you allowed to what?
Yeah, you're
free as an individual,
but you have no jurisdiction over the legal entity, which is the company
and all its assets.
Yeah. All its assets, everything. The moment it's declared, it's out of your hands.
Wow.
Which is strange because you still have to log in to Facebook, Instagram, and everything. So,
do you have to hand that over? Do you have to go? Do they put a team on? Talk me through that. Like, do they put a team on you and they go, "All right, guys, I want the logins to Instagram, Facebook. I want your laptops. I want your bags. I want all your merch." Did they come looking for that?
Everything the company owns, which they own the Instagram account, for instance, and all other software that the company is paid for and is a part of the company, and all your equipment which the company owns, they freeze it. It's so per definition. I mean, it obviously took a couple of days. This was in late June,
2019. 19, yeah.
So they just. I mean, no one's coming like the same day because I was just the papers I filed and everything, and then. But at the end of the day, it's out of your control, and someone else's controls it, which is like a guy appointed by the government, or bostyrer, it's called in Norwegian. It's he is the one in charge
official receiver, I think we call it in English.
Official receiver.
Yeah, exactly. And then
you talk to him and lawyers.
And are they friendly? Are they like, hey, I'm really sorry to hear about this. I'm here to help. I need these things. Or are they like a bailiff? Are they like, give us all? We're gonna sell everything. Your glasses were bought by the company. Take them.
To some extent, yes. He was really friendly, and they have a couple of jobs that they have to do when they take over a company, and it's that has something illegal happened here? Is there a reason to continue the operation of the company? And who are the creditors, and who's going to get paid first? And is there any assets available? And then this job is to get all those assets, evaluate it, and then try to get someone to buy it, to buy the remainder of the company. So that's what they did. A couple of days later, two guys came in physically came and took all the stuff. Well, we obviously helped them. They were super nice and friendly, so no bad vibes. But they came and took everything, which they have to do.
And put it in a van and drove it off, yeah?
Yeah, which is their job. And the same thing goes with like all digital stuff. But that took a while, a couple of days, a couple of weeks before they didn't really care that much. And it took a lot of, I mean, we had conversations with lawyers to tell what happened, to tell the story, to explain everything, and to give all the information, like what kind of software do we have, what kind of assets do we have, what do we have, and then they took it from there. Yeah.
Were you ever worried that you guys were going to end up in prison? I mean, are those thoughts that go through your head? Like, what have we done something wrong? That one time I expensed a lunch that I shouldn't have, or something like.
Yeah, no. So we had all our paperwork in order, which was really good, and we as we were super transparent and everything about our problems, everybody was like, we were full on transparent, like we didn't have any secrets. And but I mean, and we didn't do anything illegal, so we had. Yeah, you should probably cut that at last. Some say I can't. Yeah, but anyways, so yeah, it was no problem. But these things happen all the time. Companies go bankrupt. They try to do stuff and it doesn't work, and it's to some extent.
If there's anyone watching this who's going through that right now, but is a few stages before that, what would you say to them? Like, what should they do? Did you have the support you needed? Was there support missing that you should have had?
We talked to someone else that had been through the same process and just how it worked, like got their experience. And but it was, I mean, as long as you have your paperwork in order, it should be a smooth process. Yeah.
Has there any been ramifications after that? Because you're still known as Didrik Flowmotion. You know, you are. Like, you're Mr. Flowmotion. Anytime I introduce you to someone, I was like, yeah, he's one of the founders. And I don't mean in a negative way. I'm proud to say, I know the guy who, you know, there are founders that you're proud to know because you're like, oh, I know that guy or girl, right? You're one of those guys. I'm like, oh, I know that guy, you know. But it's not a negative thing. How do you feel like you've been treated after the whole thing?
It's been okay. Like, yeah, no problem. I'm open about the story. I tell it to everyone I meet, and like here, and I'm holding a talk tomorrow actually at BA to tell the story. And there's I'm super open about it, and if people want to judge, they can judge. Yeah. People are usually like people have some sympathy, which is of course nice for us, but. I don't really care what people think. Obviously, I do care to some extent, but I don't. People are stuck in their own world, basically thinking about themselves for the most part. But
it's cool also to see you after this, now working in the same industry with a simple, with a hardware product for a Norwegian company. I mean, like. Why I was kind of fishing there was thinking that maybe like you got a very hot job after that, you know, and when you started working for Remarkable, I see some founders who are like, do this thing, and then they just go and do something completely different afterwards. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? They might come back to it later, but you're only building your experience and your knowledge in the domain that you already have an unparalleled experience in, because you have the boom and the bust experience in something. So, you know, kudos to you, bro. Really, you know, and I thank you for sharing as well. Like I've like, this is the first time I've really actually heard like a proper honest, like genuinely borderline moving like story of like the boom and the bust. Like Agnes, you know, as well from Vivio, right? I've heard a little bit of her story, but not as like dramatic as yours, you know. So thank you for sharing. Really appreciate it.
That's it from this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to listen to it, there's a podcast. Just search Lunicorn on whichever platform you get your podcasts. Coming up in the next episode.
How you can most successfully succeed in that scaling, and how scaling makes you stronger. Go kind of global from day one, and then figure out through a little bit trial and error, you know, where you go next, and how this will kind of really pan out the work. As you go through life, you should focus on making your passion more and more aligned with what you spend your majority of your time on, right? And if you think through that in the macro perspective.
Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.